if it's 5 different tiers, you got tier 1, which is the top. You can say that's S tier, and then tier 5 would be the lowest. What is the gap between Kevin Durant and Anthony Davis? Is Anthony Davis tier 2? Is he tier 3? If KD's tier 1, which I'm assuming he would be, where would Anthony Davis?
No, he would not be tier 1.
Yeah, it depends how many people. I think Jokic is tier 1. I don't think KD's as good as Jokic offensively at this point. So like, it depends how many people we're putting on it in the tier. Like that.
Was KD ever as good as Joker offensively at any point in his career?
No. He's never had the ability to pass.
Hold on, Swipe.
Hold on, Swipe. Who are you asking? That's a general question.
Oh, now he doesn't have the ability to pass?
To the level of Jokic.
No. Let Ron had to get what he wanted to.
Just
leave him alone.
To the panel.
No, I think Jokic is a better offensive player than KD.
Yeah, I don't think there was a point. I don't think there was a point where KD has gotten to the.
But I'm higher on Jokic's offense than most. So
I am too.
Perfectly fine with it.
So who would be all tier 1 then?
Swiper, do you think that KD? Do you think that Joker clears KD as an offensive player, even at his best?
Yes, I think Joker has proven that he can score. Yeah, again, we're real talk. Let him answer. Let him explain why clear is crazy.
No, you go ahead.
Wait. Was you just about to say Jokic is the better scorer? Was you just about to say Jokic is the better scorer?
He was, yeah. You have to justify your words.
No,
you get on the mic.
No, because I heard even as a scorer, my mind started.
No, I'm saying that. No, that's not even.
You
said clear. Wait, time out. You said clear is crazy. So
that's what I said.
But okay, but why is it crazy?
You need to explain why he clears. So go ahead.
No, wait, hold on. So if he asked me to hear you explain, so Chill asked me a basic question. I just wanted to know what he meant by even as a scorer.
I think stop right here because we got off the track.
So many.
Chill asked one question. Swiper, I'll ask the question again. KD at his best as an offensive player, was he ever as good as Joker?
No, I said no. And I said, now what I was going to say, I think KD is arguably the best scorer ever. I think as a scorer, Jokic has proven to be an elite scorer, one of the best that we have seen.
Sure.
But I think the issue is that even if there's a gap there, the problem is you start getting into everything else, and then you start getting into like one's a generational damn near everything. And then the other one just has clear limitations through his NBA career at doing these other things offensively. And then Real Bulk said clearance is crazy. So I want to know why clearance is crazy if one's one of the best playmakers, passers ever, and maybe the best half-court offensive player ever. And I want to know why it's clear. Go ahead.
Hey, Funny Bun, don't mean you get to call me out my goddamn name, little nigga.
What you little nut that call you out every day? Answer the question. Answer the question.
Nah, first off, you try to minimize KD into just greatest scorer ever. That's a lot of value. That's not.
I agree.
Who said it's not?
If you calling him the greatest scorer ever isn't just another checkpoint for Kevin Durant.
No, I said it clearly. He might be the greatest scorer ever. Very clearly.
While you were talking, I was not talking while you were talking.
Well, you did. That's how we got to this point.
But I didn't.
As you were saying, real talk.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Ron, get him on ISO.
Him being a 50, 40, 90 guy basically is what he is for his career. And now we're talking about peak Kevin Durant, who you have to add in the element of athleticism, right? Mm-hmm. 7 foot tall with that handle, that speed, that agility, able to generate a lot of rim pressure in his prime, while still being one of the 5 greatest shooters ever. Isn't just another checkpoint. It's not just another checkpoint. So again, I may even agree with you that Jokic is a better overall offensive player. My issue was you said clears, and no, he does not clear peak KD offensively. That is crazy. And you want to know why? It's because it may not be a player in NBA history that clears peak Kevin Durant offensively. They may be better, but clears is a stretch too far. And that's all I'm saying.
Okay, so
preaching. He preaching.
The clears are LeBron. Clears him offensively. LeBron clears him. I think Michael Jordan's clearly a better offensive player. I think Nikola Jokic is clearly a better offensive player. And those are just the names just off top. The issue is that if you get in a half-court setting and you functionally do not have the same ability, I'm talking same ability, to pass and create angles to the way that Jokic and other players do, and including the fact that having that kind of size on the floor and dominating on the interior part of the paint, being able to score an elite level around the rim from the floater range, and then also being a very good 3-point shooter, and really becoming and I'm not that's crazy. That's crazy.
I just want to real talk. John D, you might want to cover your ears. Does Jokic clear Kobe offensively?
I think he's better. I think he's a better
offense. No. Does he clear?
I'm not as high on Kobe's offense as some of y'all are.
Does
so I
he
think
clear?
He's cleared.
You was comfortable.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm not as high on Kobe's offense. I think Kevin Durant's a better offensive player than Kobe, but that's we've had this discussion before. I think the issue
not
we're going to run into
values passing and playmaking.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you. We can turn this into a Kobe conversation. We can finish the Jokic conversation.
No, we're not.
The issue is, and I didn't say Curry. Somebody said Curry. The issue is when you start talking about generating offense, I would make an argument that he generates offense better than anybody else that's touched the sport in Jokic. I could make the argument that he does. I think that the fact that from an advantage standpoint and creating pressure towards the rim, I think everything, because all the stuff you put for AD, screen setting, finishing, passing, playmaking, all of it is all tier 1. Literally all tier 1 all time. Sure. And then on top of that, to be one of the best scorers that we've seen at that position, especially over the last 5 years, including the playoffs, I think matters a lot. I think the fact that there are really very, very small sample sizes of you not being able to have multiple elite scoring occurrences versus elite defenses, Jokic is one of one. And even just this year, like we just talked about this whole Thunder series where it wasn't great. Even if you want to talk about the Thunder series, which I think he was up and down, I think even the 2 best games that he had in the series, with the 42-16-7.
He had 40-10 games against Caruso and them dudes. This is the best
that was against
40-10 games twice.
That was against
that's a big deal. That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it wasn't against Caruso. They put Caruso on him in Game 7. So you telling me about 40? They did. Caruso was the adjustment in Game 7.
Against him.
And Caruso was the primary. I watched the game.
Caruso on the box.
That you know about that one game?
Yeah, I said Game 7.
Oh, okay.
I said Game 7. Yeah, that's what I said. I said Game 7.
I'm sorry.
And he's telling me about 40-10 games. I won on Caruso. I don't know why you brought it up to me.
What do you mean it wasn't on Caruso?
It wasn't on Caruso. Game 7 was Caruso.
He's talking about He's talking about one game. He's talking about just
I'm talking about the Game 7, the game in which Caruso was the assignment.
Okay, so
Game 5, 6, Caruso wasn't the assignment.
Caruso had the assignment in the second half of Game 7. It wasn't the whole series.
Not only that. So the games when he had 40 and 10, the games when he had 40 and 15,
Caruso wasn't the assignment.
They purposely got Caruso on him, and he got Caruso in the mid-range, and it was
Caruso wasn't the assignment. Caruso wasn't the assignment.
Caruso was the assignment.
He wasn't. I watched the series. Caruso was the assignment in Game 7. I watched.
Interesting. So why wasn't he the assignment the entire series, Mars?
It's called making adjustments.
We just figured it out in Game 7.
It's called making adjustments.
We got way up to Game 7. Like, you know what?
It's called making adjustments. It's called making adjustments.
In Game 7.
It's called making adjustments. We've heard of that term many times.
I have
making
heard
adjustment. Yeah, you make an adjustment.
Not in Game 7 though.
Pull up data baller.
Yeah, no one's ever made an adjustment for Game 7.
Give me a break.
No one's ever done that. Yeah, no one's ever done that. Okay.
Let me look at some data.
Shout out to Caruso, man.
As you were saying,
D-Real. No, it's perfectly fine. I think the issue is if you start having conversations with other players, like Jordan, I think he's a better playmaker passer than KD. I think he's a better, could be arguing better scorer. Just depends on what you want to value with there. Because obviously mid-range shooting, three ball wasn't the same. I think as a driver, just obviously it's not even a conversation. I think Magic has an argument as well. Again, Magic's issue is the scoring stuff. He doesn't have the same level of KD, but the passing and the playmaking. I think he might be the best transition player of all time. Like, LeBron, Magic, Giannis, just depends on what you want to value. Again, scoring, passing, all that other stuff. I think that, again, Jokic is just one of one. He's elite in transition. He's elite around the rim. He's an elite passer. And, again, very good mid-range shooter. Again, now I'm not talking about like the Kawhi, Kevin Durant archetype, but like a floater, he's probably the best floater shooter of all time. And then I'm talking about he's a really good three-point shooter relative to the playoffs over the course of his career. He's had some lulls, as Marge pointed out, but he had some really high points as a shooter as well. And I think, again, just from creating standalone offense, I don't know. I honestly genuinely don't know how many players are better, if there is one better, especially in a half-court setting than Jokic. So,
see, Swap, that's my.
No, but I'm cool. But you can disagree.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not even that.
That's what I'm saying. Like people might disagree with that, but if you start going to Jordan and all this other stuff, like they all have like stinker series. Jokic has stinker series. 21 Suns. We talked about that before. But Jokic also has these incredible scoring series versus the number one defense of all, like in the league and the Warriors, where it's 33 on +9 and he's just going crazy. And then like there's nobody out there with him. So we've seen him go to some heights.
No. I'm tired of you like doing this thing where you do against the number one defense and stuff like that, when you're also the same guy that says playoffs are all matchup dependent. So it doesn't matter where a defensive ranks if they're not geared to
the Timberwolves are geared to stop Jokic.
Wait, stop. When they played that Warriors team,
he averaged 31 on 61 true shooting in that series.
Yeah, he struggled against.
He did struggle.
He wasn't great against Minnesota.
What do you mean? But he
so when you
31, 11,
no, I'm not going to let you derail what I'm saying.
Pretty
when they played the
Warriors,
what do you mean?
No, like that objectively is pretty elite.
The Warriors that season, who was there to guard Jokic? Who was playing the five? Draymond Green.
Draymond.
It was Kevon Looney and Draymond. It was Kevon Looney and Draymond that year.
Kevon Looney and Draymond. Okay, when KD struggled,
and then Anthony Davis the next year. So who you think is the best defender in the sport?
With who backside?
All right, now we're doing backside stuff.
Really?
So you're saying
right,
full,
but you can see, like, obviously Jokic is an incredible basketball player, a great basketball player, obviously. But I think we can all agree that the stats are a little dependent on the style of offense. You know what I'm saying? It's more of a scheme thing. You know what I mean? Like it's all ran.
The reason why their offense is that way is because of Jokic's skills.
Minnesota locks up Jokic.
That's why they run their offense that way, because of Jokic's skill set. They don't run that offense just because they got.
By the way, the last time Jokic saw the same team that they built, the last time they saw Jokic just saw the same team that's built to beat him without Murray and MPJ in that same game. He had 61 points. So, like, what I'm saying is that, like, yes,
shout out to Russell Westbrook.
That I do understand that, like, they are built to stop him. But again, 31 in a series on plus like 5, and then you have 61 points the last time you see them when they're fully healthy. So I'm saying that, like, obviously, like, there are advantages to building around to beat Jokic, but Jokic is also decimated.
Do you think Jokic's playmaking gets worse in the playoffs?
I think some of that becomes dependent on who's around him to a degree. Because I do think bigs, it's harder for bigs, I think, when you're being trapped to that degree. I do think that can affect it. So yes, I do think there are ways for you to be able to do that. But I think some of that's also effectual. Like, it just depends on what you would like. For instance, in game 5, when Jokic had 20 potential assists in that game, like, I think the playmaking was really good.
Heading to the playoffs, it's the same thing.
No, it's not. It's not. You know why? Because that's what I'm telling you though. Again, this is where you start getting into basketball nuance with the conversation. When you start scheming, it's not deflecting at all.
That's what you start
real talk. When you start scheming, prime example. Does LeBron's playmaking get worse in the playoffs? Because of what you saw, like in series versus the Warriors in 2015, when he was turning the ball over like a madman and he was 39% from the field. Did his playmaking get worse? Or would you say the situation around him affected his ability to play make at the same level that he normally does?
I would say that, sure.
Because I think actually, if you just look at opportunities created, I think LeBron was probably playmaking at a similar level. I think with Jokic, it's away from just guys aren't making the open threes he's creating. Is the shots at the rim that Jokic farms in the playoffs that he creates, they aren't there in the playoffs. That's been
for his teammates.
Well, Moss, can't we say
that's been irrefutable evidence over Jokic's playoff career. His layup assists, his shots created at the rim, falls off a cliff, it plummets. In the regular season, he has numbers up there with Jason Kidd and Steve Nash in terms of creating opportunities at the rim. In the playoffs, his numbers.
But don't you think that's a scheme though? Like
if the
Nuggets are the lowest 3-point volume shooting team in the league, and the only way
he creates more threes in the playoffs and less shots at the rim, because I think the way teams guard against the Nuggets and the way you guard against a team that has Jokic, because he's not the downhill threat that other guys are, and he's not the ball handler that other guys are, and a lot of his layup stuff comes off designed actions and cuts and all of those things. Teams are able to scheme and take. That goes to Ox's point about scheme. They're able to take that away in a way that you can't take that away from a Steve Nash. You can't take that away from a Jason Kidd. You can't take that away with some of the Magic Johnsons. You can't take that away from them.
Well, wouldn't you say that's predicated on the fact that if you have shooters in those spots, like, then you can change and vary what your offense does. But I think the Nuggets have been so dependent on interior scoring, regular season and playoff, because they haven't had shooters on the floor at all. I say, especially in 23, they did. In 23, they did, and I think that's why they murked.
And even then, his layup assists and layup shot creation.
I know, but then the 3-point. I think they had more 3-point shooting over the course of that run as well. And I'm saying that, like, even now in this run, like, I'm estimating this is an estimate. I think now with the level of 3-point shooters they have, I think if you do now try to do what the Thunder did to him, try to do what the Clippers did to him, they're going to have so many options as jump shooters this year relative to what they've had, that I do think that's where you're going to see where the curve flips. But the issue is, if to your point, Mars, when you talk about throwing the ball out to Peyton Watson or Russell Westbrook, that's not a good pass because they're not good shooters. I think the issue is if the offensive limitations around the roster vary to the degree that I think they were the best interior scoring team, I think, since the tracking era started this season.
Sounds accurate.
They were scoring damn near 60 points in the paint a game this year because they had no 3-point shooting. So then what teams did, like the Thunder, is they literally said, okay, we're just going to pack the paint and dare all your bad shooters to shoot. And so I actually think that's a credit to the defense, knowing that we're going to take away the best advantage you have by then making you rely on a thing that you can't do at a high level. So I do think that goes back to guarding Jokic the correct way. But I think, Mars, you also understand this. My biggest criticism of the Nuggets and Calvin Booth is knowing that and saying if other teams know that, if I know that, other teams know that, and so therefore we're just going to pack and then just hope for the best with everybody else. I just don't think that's a formidable strategy, which is why I think John Wallace and Ben Tinder coming in saying we're going to give Tim Hardaway, Cam Johnson, and whoever. Like maybe they add another shooter. They got more shooters this year. And then we're saying, okay, we can take a bet that if you do play the same kind of defense, then we'll be able to beat you next time around because we have the shooters around. So I think that's where you flip
but
what
if they can't? What if that personnel can't stay on the floor defensively?
Well, it's going to be actually.
If the five that you have out there, if you want any kind of two-way viability, there's like a 90% chance that there's going to be somebody out there that can't hit a three.
Well, I don't know who these people are you're talking about with this Nuggets team though. Like you're saying, like
Hardaway can shoot basketball. 100.
Yeah, I think that's the question.
Because I saw the five that you had put for the
Jamal Murray can
3-point lineup or whatever.
Just a zone buster. It was just a zone buster lineup. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to see minutes this year.
That's fair. But I'm saying, what if you play like y'all still have Peyton Watson, correct?
Yes, he's still on the
court. Right. I think Peyton Watson is going to have to play because he's one of your better defensive players, correct?
I mean, but that's the thing. Their defense wasn't what they struggled with last year, though. So I think like their offense was the problem. Their defense was good, I think, in both of those series. I think the issue becomes is that
I know, but that's because you were playing some of your better defensive personnel like Russ and Peyton and these players.
But the numbers actually say when Peyton Watson was on the floor, the defense wasn't all that good anyway because he was just like kind of flying all over the place. I'm saying, I believe, just please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe. But I'm saying that like the other side of this though too, real talk is I think they showed they can scheme up enough defense to make up for deficiencies they might have. And I think the starting line is still going to be Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, Cameron Johnson, Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic. And then the rotation behind is going to be Tim Hardaway Jr., Bruce Brown, and then, Jonas Valanciunas, whoever else, maybe they bring another person. They're going to have several other players to come into the game. I think you can – go ahead.
Moss, it sounds to me like Joker doesn't have something that transfers into the playoffs. What I mean when I say that is, if you think about the all-time greats, sure, their numbers go down in terms of field goal percentage because you're playing against better defenses and you're playing against better schemes. However, there is one thing that I have that you can't stop once we get to the playoffs. Now, there might be some things that I won't be able to do as good, but there is this one thing that I do it just transfers into the playoffs, whether it's defense, whether it's my ability to pass, whether it's my ability to knock down a mid-range shot. Joker, on the other hand, we shouldn't be able to scheme against you. If you finish around the rim, I understand that we're playing against Toronto in the regular season, and I understand that we're playing against Charlotte and those guys. But if we have one team specifically that's scheming against me, I should be able to finish around the rim, even if you have a big. And it sounds to me like what you're telling me about Joker. His ability to finish around the rim come playoff time is less difficult to scheme against as it is in the regular season. Why is that? His
ability to create shots around. I think.
Yeah, he's talking about passing.
But this is what I'm asking. My ability to create shots around the rim. Why am I making this more difficult than it already is? Because it goes back to my original logic of me being able to do this one thing. I don't need to create a bunch of different shots for a bunch of different defenses. Like I told you about Jabbar, I had this one thing. You stop this, you stop me. If I got this jump hook, you stop this, you stop me. If Joker had that one thing around the basket, he wouldn't be able to be slowed down.
Who's slowing him down exactly, though? I guess what I'm trying to understand is like
Mars is telling me that when we get to the playoffs, Joker has a difficult time around the rim.
He's saying passing, creating shots around the rim for his teammates. He's saying his playmaking takes a dip because they're guarding the rim. And so he doesn't have the ability to play make it the same way in the regular season because the way defenses are leveraging their defense in the paint.
With these guys collapsing on me, around the rim, when I'm diving to the rim and I get 2 and 3 guys, Michael Porter Jr. is still in the corner in May as he was in January. Why is this more difficult now? What's going on now?
Well, the corner's not the rim. Okay, why can Caruso guard Jokic?
Because the Oklahoma City Thunder I think that they apply enough help for him to be able to take chances, to be able to be more physical. I don't think that he should be able to cover him, but I think Oklahoma City provides enough help where they allow him to be more.
And with
forceful.
Caruso guarding Jokic, where's Chet?
At the rim.
If Jokic was able to score over the top of Caruso with consistency,
sure,
would they be able to guard him with a 6'5" individual?
Well, Caruso guarded him for.
Hold on, Swipe. But keep going, Moss.
Minimal
which
possessions.
Would then mean that you'd have to have a big guarding Jokic, correct?
I'm
which
following
would take away the rim protection because Chet's playing help side because he doesn't need to guard Jokic primarily, right?
I'm following you.
Why did Rudy Gobert not have to guard Jokic primarily last year?
Why did Rudy Gobert not have to guard Joker in the paint? That's a good question.
Because they had Cat, right? And everyone up here unanimously agrees Cat is not a
last year
right?
you're talking about. Yeah,
last year.
Because they had Cat and they had Nas.
They had Cat, right?
And they had Nas.
And Cat and Nas Reed were guarding him primarily. They were the post-up defenders, all of that stuff, right? If Jokic was able to abuse those guys in the post, that would, in theory, mean they would have to switch the matchup.
So Joker can't.
But they did though.
Yeah, and he had that game 4, game 5. Which game was it? Game 5, right? And then game 6, game 7, they went back to the Cat matchup, right?
Well, no. I think you're getting your order of no. You're getting your order of sequence wrong. Game 7, he had 34 and 19 to 7. He had 21 in the second half. He was really
so that
good.
was the game you guys couldn't buy a 3.
Yeah, remember, and then they had no one outside of Jokic and Murray scored more than 7 points in that game.
Yes.
So they lost to the point that you were making earlier. They didn't have anyone that can make any of the exterior shots.
And game 6 was just you guys
they got blown. They got the doors blown off. Yeah, it was just
and that happens quite a lot with them. How many times in the last 2 postseasons have you guys scored sub 100?
Sub 100?
Yes.
I'm thinking more getting blown out.
Yeah, I think they've lost.
Well, them getting blown out is that's defense stuff. We're talking
40 miles though. I mean, like getting blown out by 40 though.
Yeah, but that means you have to not score a lot, and they have to score a lot to get blown out.
They lost by 30 to the Clippers.
Strictly offensively, how many times have the Denver Nuggets scored sub 100 in the last 2?
They averaged 106 in their series against OKC. Minnesota
against Minnesota, they scored sub 100 4 times in 7 games. Against the Lakers, they didn't do it. I'm checking it right now, so this is not me knowing the answer. I'm genuinely checking. Against the Clippers, they scored sub 100 once, so that's 5 times. And then against OKC, it was 2 times. So in the last 2 postseasons, they've scored sub 100 7 times. They've played how many postseason games? They've played 26 postseason games. 7 of 20, so about 25% of their postseason games, they score sub 100 points. Having the best offensive player ever, tier 1, scoring sub 100 in the modern NBA in 25% of your playoff games, that's not concerning?
Well, hold on, timeout. So
as Swiper, you gotta answer this question.
Well, I didn't start this segment. So like
I'm saying
we do this thing where it's like we're starting this segment and then we just gotta end it because it's now getting to conversation. What I'm saying is like,
no, it's because we're at the super chat segment.
Yeah,
sure,
that's what
exactly. So I mean, Mars. I think Jamal being hurt last year had a lot to do with that. I think he was clearly ailed, and I think this year having the lack of shooting around the team, which was present in the regular season and in the playoffs, I think had a lot to do that as well. I think there were multiple factors that contributed.
How many times did the 2018 Cavs score sub 100? Let's check. 2018 Cavs in the playoffs.
Did they play in the elite defenses in that playoffs run?
Not only that, it was a lot different ball game back then. It was
he's going back to an older era, so
2018
there should be
Cavs,
less scoring.
1, 2.
They scored sub 100 once, twice.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
9 times, I think, in 22
one run?
games. The 22 games to 26, yeah.
Count 9.
And I think we'd all agree they were a worse offensive supporting cast, right?
Yes.
In a worse offensive time 7 years ago.
Absolutely.
And it's 9 times. And they did play against the Raptors, who were a good defense, the Celtics, who were an elite
and the
defense,
Celtics,
and the Warriors,
yeah,
who were an elite defense. So yes, they did play against some elite defenses.
yes,
And the games, and one of the games they scored sub 100, they won the game. But that's neither here nor there. It's about offense. Point being, like, even that's concerning. And we can all agree the 2018 Cavs are one of the worst offensive supporting casts we've seen. And them scoring sub 100 in an era that was 7 years ago, like, I don't think that's really comparable. Like, we're talking about the modern NBA where teams are, the average offensive rating is like 115
in the playoffs for the Western Conference.
Oh my God.
Well, I'm saying I don't think that's the case.
I'll look this stuff up and then we'll bring it back because I don't want to.
I mean, I guess for me, like, I feel like this is. I think the issue is
they had a
like
105.6 offensive rating against the Thunder in the series.
Yeah, I mean, but is that like
Denver had the
with Jokic on the floor though? Like, or
Denver
that
had the 11th ranked offense in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, they didn't have an offense without Murray or Jokic on the floor.
It's the player choice way. Yeah, them boys don't get it started. The player choice way. Yeah, the player choice way. Come and switch lanes into the player choice way.